Joining me right now is Cap Wealth Chairman and Chief Investment Officer and author of the book, Another Big Lie, Timothy Pagliara. Timothy, it's great to have you on the program this morning. Thanks very much for joining us. First, will you please explain what took place? Because I know that there are many viewers, many investors who believe that the Obama administration just took that almost $300 billion out of Fannie and Freddie and put it into Obamacare, put it into other areas. What do you think happened?
Well, good morning, Maria. You can call me Tim. Ironically, your previous guest, Grover Norquist, had a lot to do with this. Under Treasury Secretary Geithner, the original terms of the conservatorship were amended. And we were all somewhat gaslighted into believe that the government could create a loan that could never be repaid and that it could be funded through the earnings and profits of two of the largest corporations, the most profitable corporations in the world. So as successor Treasury Secretary Jack Lew was struggling with the constraints of the Budget Control Act of 2011, all of a sudden the largest dividend in the history of the world, $62 billion, appeared. It was enough that Treasury Secretary Lew informed the House Speaker Boehner at the time that they had an extra couple of months of relief before the budget shutdown.
So what do you think where is this going? I mean, do you think that this lawsuit is going to get settled? Collins versus Mnuchin? A lot of investors, certainly the investors of Fannie and Freddie, want to know if they'll ever be paid back.
Well, the important thing is that the American taxpayer has been paid back. They've been paid back over $300 billion, $30 billion more than the terms of the original agreement. They stand to gain an additional $100 billion when the government exercises their warrants under the terms of the original deal. Many commentators have described this as the greatest thing since the Louisiana Purchase in terms of what it's done for the American taxpayers. Now, President Johnson privatized Fannie and Freddie. They don't have capital right now. Capital needs to be rebuilt. They need to be privatized. It's an important moment. So if Treasury Secretary Mnuchin doesn't act, the Supreme Court likely will.
So how much could the government's 80% ownership of these government-sponsored entities be worth if they wrote this down, the senior debt?
Be worth over $100 billion. So the government stands to make an additional $100 billion by doing the right thing.
And do you think the money was used for Obamacare? Is that why they shifted money from Freddie and Fannie, because they needed it on Obamacare?
Well, this issue was first addressed on your show, Maria, in an interview with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, when he acknowledged that the money was used for a variety of purposes. He didn't go so far as to say it was specifically used for the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. But there is evidence to show that it went for cost-sharing reimbursements and a variety of other things. It was very controversial. There's never been an accounting of where this money went. It went outside the appropriations process of Congress, and it was treated as non-budget revenue. So we've never gotten an explanation of where it went, and the Affordable Care Act is one of the likely places.
And what would you expect in a Biden administration? Would he use that money as well before sending it back to the shareholders whose money it is?
I think the simple answer is yes. Bad habits are hard to break. And when the government realizes they can put their hand into the coffers of two of the most profitable companies in the world, then they're likely to do it again and continue that process, which has been stopped by FHFA Director Calabria. The companies are now accumulating capital subject to their ability to raise capital in the private sector.
What's your take on where this goes and how this plays out in front of the Supreme Court? Do you have any timing on this Collins versus Mnuchin suit?
I do. I think that Treasury Secretary Mnuchin is probably the most significant character in his office since Henry Morgenthau in the FDR in 1935. You know, there's a a theme to this. Fannie Mae was created in 1938 to help the George Baileys of the world depicted in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And they have provided affordable financing, long-term financing for the American homeowner since that period of time. You know, the largest loan for Fannie Mae is $510,000. The average loan is less than half of that. Some people are paying that much for cars right now. So the American dream of home ownership has always been funded since the late 30s and the Depression. And Secretary Mnuchin has an opportunity to put his stamp on the next generation of home ownership and having these companies appropriately capitalized and financed for the future.
Yeah, we will keep following this. We'll see if they do get out of government ownership, 80% anyway. This is an important subject, and I know that our audience wants answers on the Fannie and Freddie money that was taken. Pretty much. Let me get your take on overall home ownership. Sales down in November, new home sales for the first time in 6 months. Demand seems high, though, amid this pandemic, certainly out of big cities, but supply is historically low. What is your reaction to the trend, and what are you expecting on the home market here as we watch interest rates at these low levels?
Well, I think home ownership demand was strong going into the pandemic. You know, we're in the middle of a demographic boom. The millennials have delayed home ownership and household formation, you know, as evidenced by the fact I have 2 grandchildren in the last, 3 years. And so we hit this with a shortage as well.
All right, we will leave it there. Tim, it's great to get your insights this morning. Thanks so much.
Merry Christmas.